Welcome to Parade of Podcasts with your host, Adam Leverton. That's me. This is a review show where I review podcasts. And it seems odd to review podcasts, but generally I review everything in my life. So podcasts are no different. And podcasts are something that I really enjoy, and I think they have improved my quality of life. And I've I've thought about that a lot recently, like what actually has improved the quality of my life? What has made me a happier person, a better person, a smarter person, a better parent, whatever? And I think the answer to some of those questions, not all of them, is podcasts. Because they are a way that I can quickly kind of understand more about the world. So today, the podcast review is going to be called The Ancient World, created by Scott Chesworth. And this is a podcast that's kind of a deep cut for history podcast. It's not the most famous history podcast, and it's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst. I'm going to tell you a few things that I like about it. First, I like the fact that it's incredibly well researched, and Scott Chesworth is one of the he how to say this, he's funny and his jokes come naturally, I think, but it's not a funny podcast. It's just he'll be like talking about something, and then something he'll say something funny, you're like, oh yeah, that is funny, and it kind of keeps you engaged in the topic. So really well researched. He's a great host, and yeah, I think that those are the best things about the podcast. But this is a podcast review, so sometimes reviews are not always all positive. And I would say the thing that kind of makes me hesitant to full heartedly recommend it is because he is talking about ancient civilizations, right? He starts talking about things that happen here in Mesopotamia, and then he goes to Egypt, and then he goes here, and then he goes there. And I think that and this can be in one episode. So I think that the narrative is a bit complicated to follow, and I think maybe there's like a thematic connection, but it doesn't seem to me like if I so for example, I just binge podcasts and then I come back to see if they've like updated any episodes. And so I binged his a while ago, and then he had like five more episodes. So I listened, and I was like, what's going on? Where are we? And in a podcast that has more narrative structure, like Revolutions or the history of Rome, you might not know where you are at that specific moment, but you know where you're going, and that gives the listener kind of a feeling of safety, I guess you could say. Yeah, so that's not for me, but I don't think that's necessarily bad. It's just something that um, you it's just different, right? And the other thing, I'm gonna just seem so nitpicky, but I think it's such an easy thing to fix, and I don't think it's just uh, my phone. Okay, I'm gonna show you. Okay, I guess I can't show you. It's not really picking up because of the light. But the problem that I wanted to focus on, really nitpicky, is that the cover art for the podcast is fuzzy. It's illegible. It says like blah 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 blah. And it's not just because I'm wearing my glasses. I'm not wearing my glasses. It's that there's something wrong with the JPEG that he uploaded for the cover art. And the podcast is over 13 years old, so maybe when he uploaded it, there wasn't a problem, but there's a problem with it now. And I think that makes it look like it's not as professional as the podcast is. So I would change the art for the podcast itself, because some episodes have like unique art connected to it. So if you don't know anything about podcasting, generally you can have cover art for, I don't know why it's called cover art because it's not like a book or an album or whatever, but you can have cover art for the podcast, which is kind of like the thumbnail on a YouTube video that you click on. So you can design it. You can, I've designed almost 500 at this point. Some are better, some are worse, thumbnails. So you have cover art for the whole podcast. And then, so that's like the channel art actually in YouTube. And then the cover art for specific episodes is like the thumbnails. So if the channel art isn't enticing for the podcast audience, no one's gonna, maybe not no one, but you're gonna lose people, right? So I think that you should change it, and that would be my suggestion. And that's the only thing that I would change, because even though I said I didn't like the way the narrative is structured, not every narrative has to be like perfectly suitable for me, Adam Leverton. It doesn't have to be that way. It has to be something that you enjoy creating and other people enjoy listening to. So, yeah, I'd give the podcast a strong 7 out of 10, which is really high praise. So that's my review of the podcast called The Ancient World. If you are interested in history and the ancient world is like a gap in your knowledge, this will certainly help remedy that gap. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.